Recently, I have been working on the Klaviyo flows from a client, flows that we have built since the very beginning of the brand, and as you can see, there are a lot of them. And because when you start a brand from scratch, you are not knowing exactly what you do, so you try something, it doesn't work, you try something else, and you iterate, and it creates this huge list of Klaviyo flows that stack on top of each other that at some point you kind of lose track of. What we wanted to do is to get back on this list and make sure we are not overcomplicated it, and that we restructure it and we rewrite every email to make sure everything is fine now that we know what works. And as you can see here, this list is pretty hard to work on. You have to set up the filters to know exactly what you're doing, and if you send, for example, a copywriter on this list and say, hey, rewrite, please help me rewrite all the flows, well, that's quite overwhelming. So what we wanted to do is to create a document, a working document that help to know exactly what emails do we have and what flows. So I'm going to show you a way to go from this Klaviyo list to an Airtable document like this one that contain every single email that are included in all the flows that you have seen. Related to the flows, as you can see, they are tagged here. And on top of that, we can also add the feature to directly go to the flow which this email is connected, and also to the email editor to directly work on this editor. If you start working on your different flows, so you can work directly from here, and then, for example, you can add a status to know exactly where you are at in your rewriting process, for example. So let me show you how it looks to create that. This is made easily. Let me remove my face a little bit. This is make.com. It's an automation tool, and this is a pretty simple scenario that you can run once, and then you get this email list from your actual flow list. I'm going to walk you through the complete scenario right now so you can understand it and reproduce it quite easily. And if you don't want to reproduce it yourself, just email me, and then I will send you the blueprint of this scenario, so you just have to replace the different variants. But it is really easy to do. You can go from scratch. Even though you have never used Make before, you can just set up a new account and start working, and you will be able to create it. So the things you need right now is obviously your Klaviyo account with your Klaviyo list, make.com account, and an Airtable account. Although the Airtable account, you can replace it with Google Sheet, it doesn't matter. You just need a way to have a list of different flows. So let's go to the first element of this scenario. The way that the Klaviyo API, because each of these Klaviyo modules are API calls, so they are directly made through an API call module in Make. And the way that the API works in Klaviyo is that you can get a list of all your flows, you can get a list of all the actions in your flows, meaning sending an email, waiting, conditional split, and so on. And then you can get information about an email. What you cannot get, it's the content of the email, and that is really a shame. And some people are requesting it. I hope they will do that soon. You can do it for templates, but not for emails that are included in the flow. What you get at the end is a title. You get the flow where from which the email is related to. You get the ID. You get the preview text, the from name, and also the from sender, which I didn't put here for privacy matter. The first thing we want is a list of all the flows into that we have into Klaviyo. So that's a basic API call, it's flows, that don't change that much, get, then it gives you an array that contains all the flows that you have. In each flow, you have a bunch of information. Here you can go in attributes and you can see status. And that's the first thing we are going to look at, is if the flow is live. Because it is an array within Make, you have to use an iterator so you can work on each part of the array. So you put an iterator here, and then you will look at the body data, the one that we have here, to work on each piece of it. Then there is a filter that asks if the flow is live. Basically, if attribute status, the one that talks about live or not, where it is already. Don't find it anymore. Here, so body, data, attributes, and status. If this one contains live, then it can go through, meaning the flow that we are working on is a live flow. You can change that if you want, depending on your needs. Then now we are going to take the result, so the ID of the flow that we know is live already, and we are going to ask the API for the flow actions. As I said, flow action doesn't mean only emails, it means every single action in the flow. Same thing, we have a result that contains body, data, and for example, this one contains only one action. If I go to operation 2, let's look at this one, body, data. Here, this is a big flow. The other one was a one email flow. In these actions, you can find a lot of things, as I said, not only emails. So now what we want is to iterate on this array, the same thing that we had here, and look at what are the action types that contain send email, which means we only want to work on the emails. Then we have a sleep scenario. Why is it? Because if you go too strong on the Klaviyo API, at some point it stops working. So you just want the scenario to rest for 1 second, so you are not overflowing the API with requests. And now we are going to take the idea of the flow action that we filtered already, but this time we are going to look at flow messages. So we make this request for each of them, and from now on you can you have all the information, so you can write a new record in your Airtable base. But because you want to work on this document maybe several times, maybe you will add a flow and you don't want to overwrite all the flows all the time, so it's just a search record. So we are just going to look at if the flow is already existing with a formula in email ID. We are looking at if this exists in this document. If it doesn't, then we create a new record. With that, every time I add a record, I can run the scenario and it will add it to the list here. If I start without any email in my list, then it will go through all my Klaviyo flows, look at all the flow actions and filter them to get every single email. I'm sorry if my explanation was a little bit long, but it's pretty hard to articulate it properly. Plus, it's not my native language, so sorry for that. I hope it was clear, but don't hesitate to ask me if you have any question in the comment. I'm happy to answer. From here, just a little more maybe. That is the main view where you have everything, but you can also now look at it by flows. For example, you can group them by flow, and then you see, okay, this flow contains all these emails. This flow contains all this email, and so on. You can also, if you are working on each email for whatever the work you're doing, you can look at status, because you have added this status column here. That is not from the automation, it is simply an added column. Then we can have all our emails here and see where we are working, when we are waiting for review, and so on. Last thing, maybe I didn't show you this part, but if you want, when you create the record, everything is blurred out. I really have a struggle with my blurring Chrome app. It doesn't matter. Well, you will figure it out. Every single column that you have in your Airtable document, you will find it here, and then you just have to pull the right data, and when you run the scenario, everything appears on Airtable. I hope you found any value on this video, and I see you in the next one.